So I'm Nathanael Littauer. I'm the program director at Excel Sportsplex. So Parisi Speed School at Excel Sportsplex in Asheville, North Carolina. Been coaching for Parisi for 3 years now. In the 5 years prior to that, primarily spent a lot of time in Olympic weightlifting, and then in some sport coaching with the sports of wrestling. Specialties really are Olympic weightlifting, strength training, and muscle gain or hypertrophy. Biggest struggle we've seen with athletes is wanting to jump back in too fast, and not considering that they really need to ease back in a little bit in order to reacclimate, or especially making sure they don't get hurt trying to push the limits a little too far. So the two big things right there is obviously some want to push it a little too far, and then for others it is pushing a little bit and getting back into the habit of working hard. I think one of the big things, like of pushing too much, you have two different things that you're seeing. Is some people want to jump straight back into 5 days of training, and so they burn out very quickly. And then the other one is trying to lift weights that you used to be able to lift before gyms were closed. And so, a classic example is, what you used to be able to lift, you're not going to be able to lift currently. And so we see a lot of that is, trying to push the limits a little too far and really taking the goal off of performance and then trying to almost lift with the ego a little bit. I think it really comes down to reminding yourself that everybody's in the same boat. Everybody's in a situation where everybody's been shut down. And so there is no having to play catch up. Everybody's kind of on this level playing field of everybody, obviously some people had some access to weights and stuff like that in their homes, but for the majority of people, you're not playing catch up. Everybody's on a level playing field. Everybody went through this time. And so, you can find a little bit of help and kind of some, motivation in the fact that everybody's starting fresh again. You're not behind, and that you're really in a good spot, especially if you just consistently just start getting back into the habit. You're in a really good spot to succeed. I think favorite thing to teach, or at least one of the big things that I harp on, is attention to detail. Especially the ability to execute things. Whether you're in, doesn't matter what training environment you're in, almost everybody uses very similar, if not the same exercises. People use the same sets and reps, but the difference that you get out of it is the attention to detail and the way that you execute those things. So that goes for everything from warm-ups, that goes to the speed drills that you do, how much effort you put into your applications and how fast you're sprinting, or the attention to detail into just the tiny technical things. And then, obviously when you kind of strength training, how much attention to detail you put into your warm-ups, how you move, and even just like the very fine tuning of things. So I think attention to detail, is from the get-go. Doesn't matter how old you are, being able to kind of focus in on, the tiny details and learning that aspect is really where we unlock some major keys to performance. I mean, even with 9-year-old athletes, it's like, hey, like this is what we do and this is how we're going to do it. And if we don't do it correctly, we're going to do it again until we consistently get this right. Because that's the X factor. When we really look at speed training, we look at the big myth, I think, is that more is better, and that, you have to do more, work harder, things like that. And it's really a combination of hard work, that attention to detail, and then also working smart. I think a lot of people will sit there and try to, and we see it a lot when like sport practices and basically running athletes into the ground. If we can really put in max effort into just some short sprints and even have longer rest times, you don't get fast by running slow. And I think a lot of people sit there and, in the sake of conditioning or trying to get more reps in, will end up running slower. And so their mechanics break down, their ability to actually move fast and kind of create some of those fast twitch motions kind of diminish. And so they end up getting slower because they're trying to think of, getting better is just a product of hard work, not attention to the detail, and really, really kind of thinking about moving fast. I think if I had a superpower, it'd have to be the power of understanding anything. Because I think a lot of people sit there and they fake that they understand a concept, but to truly understand what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're reading, because there's so much input throughout a day. There's so much input throughout a lifetime, throughout a week, throughout a year, whatever time frame you're looking at. But the ability to understand. There's a quote that I saw recently. It's not experience that makes us better, but the reflection on our experiences and being able to understand and take the meaning out of something. So I think if I were to have a superpower, it'd be the power to understand everything that I see, everything that I hear, and everything that I read in order to be able to draw from that and learn from that.